If you've ever Googled, how big should my emergency fund be? You've seen the same answer everywhere: 3 to 6 months of expenses. It's repeated so often it's basically treated as settled fact. It's not wrong exactly, it's incomplete. And incomplete financial advice is how people end up either dangerously underprepared or sitting on tens of thousands of dollars earning almost nothing when that money could be working for them. By the end of this video, you'll have an exact number for your situation, not a generic range, plus the exact account to put it in, and the order to build it without neglecting anything else that matters. Part 1. Why the generic number fails. The 3 to 6 months range exists because it has to cover everyone. A tenured government employee with a working spouse and a self-employed single parent with one income get lumped into the same advice. Those two people have wildly different actual risk, but the internet gives them the same number. Here's what the generic rule ignores: income stability. A salaried job at a large, stable employer carries very different risk than commission-based sales or freelance work, where income can swing 50% month to month. Number of income sources. A household with 2 incomes can usually survive one person losing a job far more easily than a household depending on a single income. Dependents and fixed obligations. A mortgage, kids, or a family member you support all raise the cost of a gap in income. Reemployment speed. Someone in a high-demand field with transferable skills might find a new job in weeks. Someone in a narrow, specialized, or declining field might take 6 months or longer. A single flat number can't account for any of that, which is exactly why we need a formula instead of a rule of thumb. Part 2. The exact formula. Here's the calculation in 3 steps. Step 1. Calculate your true essential monthly expenses. Not your full spending. This is not your entire budget, it's the bare floor. What you'd need to keep a roof over your head and the lights on if income stopped tomorrow. Include rent or mortgage, utilities, insurance, minimum debt payments, groceries at a basic level, transportation, and healthcare. Exclude entertainment, subscriptions, dining out, and anything discretionary. This is a survival number, not a lifestyle number. Step 2. Apply your risk-adjusted multiplier. Stable job, dual income household, no dependents, 3 months. Stable job, single income, no dependents, 4 to 5 months. Variable or commission-based income or self-employed, 6 to 9 months. Sole earner with dependents and slash or variable income, 9 to 12 months. Step 3. Subtract any liquid savings you already have set aside for this purpose. The result is your actual gap, the number you're building toward, not the number you start saving from zero. Let's run this with a real example. Elena is a freelance graphic designer. Her essential monthly expenses come out to $2,800. Because her income is project-based and unpredictable, she falls into the 6 to 9 month range. Let's say 8 months, given how concentrated her client base is. That puts her target at $22,400. She already has $3,000 saved. Her real gap is $19,400. A completely different planning problem than save 3 to 6 months, which for her would have meant stopping at $8,400 to $16,800 and still being underprepared. Part 3. Where to actually keep the money. This matters almost as much as the amount, and it's the part most advice skips entirely, not in your checking account. If it's sitting next to your spending money, it mentally blends with available funds, the same mental accounting effect that makes raises disappear. You'll dip into it for things that aren't actual emergencies, not in investments. The stock market can drop 20 to 30% in exactly the kind of broad economic downturn that also causes job losses, meaning the money might not be there at full value, precisely when you need it. Emergency funds prioritize availability over growth. A separate high-yield savings account at a different bank than your everyday checking. 2 things matter here: separation, so it's not visible or easily reachable on the same banking app you check daily, and yield, since online high-yield savings accounts typically pay meaningfully more interest than a standard checking or traditional savings account. Worth comparing rates before parking a large sum since they shift over time. Look for one that's FDIC insured or NCUA insured for credit unions, so the full balance is protected. The friction of a separate account, needing to actively transfer funds out before you can spend them, is doing real psychological work. It's the same principle as automating savings. Remove the decision, don't rely on willpower in the moment. Part 4. The step-by-step build order. Building toward the full target isn't one phase, it's 3, and the order matters, especially if you also have debt. Step 1. Build a $1,000 starter buffer first before anything else. This isn't your full fund, it's just enough to absorb a car repair or a broken appliance without reaching for a credit card. Prioritize this even ahead of extra debt payments because without it, every small emergency turns into new debt. Step 2. Split your effort between high-interest debt and your fund. If you're carrying debt above roughly 7 to 8% interest, most credit cards qualify. Split additional money between paying that down and continuing to build your fund, rather than going all in on one. A common, workable split is 50-50. Step 3. Once high-interest debt is cleared, redirect the full amount toward finishing your fund target. With no high-interest debt pulling at the same dollars, you can usually close the remaining gap in months rather than years. Step 4. Automate the transfer. Pick a timeline. 12 to 18 months is realistic for most gaps. Divide your remaining target by the number of months and set up an automatic transfer for that amount on payday. This is the same mechanism that makes the raise allocation rule work. Once it's automated, it stops depending on whether you feel like saving that particular week. Part 5. 4 mistakes that quietly undo all of this mistake. 1. Counting retirement accounts as part of the fund. A 401k or IRA usually comes with an early withdrawal penalty, often around 10%, plus taxes owed, meaning the money you can actually access in an emergency is significantly less than the balance you see on screen. Mistake 2. Treating a credit card as a backup emergency fund. A credit limit isn't your money, it isn't guaranteed to stay available exactly when your income drops. And using it during an income gap means paying interest on top of an already difficult situation. Mistake 3. Never recalculating after a major life change. A new mortgage, a new dependent, a job change to commission-based income. Each of these changes your real number. The formula from Part 2 isn't a one-time calculation, it's worth revisiting roughly once a year or after any major change. Mistake 4. Stopping at 3 to 6 months because that's what you'd always heard, even after going through the actual formula and landing on a higher number. The generic advice is sticky precisely because it's repeated so often. Don't let it override a number you've actually calculated for your real situation. The 3 to 6 months rule isn't bad advice. It's just advice built for an average that doesn't actually describe most people's specific situation. The version that actually protects you is the one built from your real expenses, your real income risk, and your real obligations. So here's the one action. This week, calculate your essential monthly expenses using the list from Part 2. Not your full budget, just the survival number. And figure out which risk category you actually fall into. That's the number that matters, not the one from the last article you read. If this gave you an actual number instead of another vague range, subscribe. Next video walks through automating the entire build step by step with a real banking setup.